this is my review of Cells at Work Code Black. Okay, so this episode actually tackles what happens when you drink alcohol. Basically, remember at the beginning of the last review when I said that this series covered people doing a whole bunch of stuff that aren't really good for them? This episode is no exception because it tackles probably one of the bigger ones: drinking too much alcohol. So, yeah, this episode not only shows the process of how the liver breaks alcohol down, and how it actually begins to, and how the liver is actually affected by it if there's too much of it. But actually, that's mainly it. It just shows the process of how alcohol is broken down in the body and the harmful effects that can have on the liver if you drink too much of it, and how some people get a fatty liver, as it were. So it starts off with our main red blood cell, 2143. He's getting some orders reduced, as they're stated by his superiors, but basically he's getting some orders, and he notices that one of his friends is having a bit of a hard time as well. And after talking about it a little bit, they part ways and go on their business. They go and go on their routines and go deliver their oxygen. At which point 2146 passes a macrophage, and he remarks how pretty macrophages always are, because they're designed to be maid characters. They look like maids, and they're designed to be cute characters. They're designed to be cute and fun-loving. But this is the world of Cells at Work Code Black, so of course that's completely shattered when he sees the macrophage not only dragging a germ behind itself, but also it seems to be the macrophage is completely out of it and seems to just be hyper-focused on killing whatever bacteriums are in front of her. Case in point, after watching her for a bit, 2146 picks up the handles on his cart and begins to leave. And the second he makes any sort of noise, the macrophage damn near takes his head off, and then apologizes for it immediately after realizing that she made a mistake and that she almost killed the red blood cell by accident. And tells him to go, and tells him that, and then again profusely apologizes and goes on her merry way, still looking for bacterium to kill. And clearly she's very overworked as well, like everything else in this body. And with that, red blood cell begins to go. Red blood cell 2143. He picks up his oxygen containers again. He starts moving his cart to the mouth where he's supposed to deliver his oxygen, and discovers a giant ulcer. Now, how do they handle the giant ulcer? I'll tell you how. Everything's on fire and everybody's dead. Yeah, that's just the long story. Because the idea is that ulcers are inflammation. They cause inflammation in the body. So how do you handle this? You make it a huge bath of fire. And naturally, upon seeing this, 143 begins to have a bit of a panic attack because he realizes everybody's dead and he can't really not only can he not do his job, which is concerning him, mainly because he realizes that he can't really do his job effectively if everybody's dead. But on top of that, the wall of the ulcer bursts while he's trying to figure out what to do to deliver his oxygen. And his forms that he needs to have signed and stamped, they land in the fire and they get burned up, and he begins to cry about it because he kind of realizes that that was the one thing he was asked to do, and he can't even do that. At which point, one of the cells who reveal that they're barely alive, that they're alive but only barely, warns him to escape, because now that the wall to the ulcer is burning, that means bacteria is going to sweep into the ulcer and start killing everything in the city. And the second he issues that warning, the bacteria, which are giant, they come in through the hole. And he panics. At which point 1196 shows up, and along with two other white blood cells who are unnamed. They show up and kill all the bacterium, and also the other two white blood cells begin to flirt with 2146 before going into their job of devouring the bacterium so that they can't reproduce. And after doing that, 1196 realizes that she's seen 2146 before, and 2146 is just flattered that that she remembers him. And 1196 tells him that he should go back and continue delivering his oxygen before things get worse. But of course, things absolutely get worse because around that exact same time, the body begins gargling mouthwash, which causes everything in the ulcer to flood. And they quickly realize, and 1196 quickly realizes something is wrong and has everybody grab onto something. And then it just comes in and clears out what's left of the bacterium and dissolves them. At which point they proceed to go on their merry way, and the red blood cell is greeted by the white blood cells, and they give him a farewell and then leave. And he also lingers on 1196 for a bit because it's implied a little bit in the first episode, but especially here that 2146 has a crush on 1196, and her white blood cell kohai, as we'll call them, they kind of pick up on that and even tease 1196 about it as they're leaving. But in any case, he goes back to headquarters to relax for a little bit and try to de-stress. At which point, two older red blood cells, a younger one and an old man, they both show up and tell them that it's probably good that they are relaxing since the body's been under a lot of stress lately. And the old man even remarks that it's going to rain. And when 2146 asks him what the hell he's talking about, suddenly alcohol rains into the system. As it turns out, that's how they decided to pick alcohol, by the way. It just filters out into the what is it called? The sprinkler system, and it just spreads through everything. It just rains down on everything, and while the older red blood cells are kind of used to it by now, the rookies kind of don't take it very well, and the old man quickly realizes this and takes them to the liver to detox. And here's the thing about the liver. The liver is depicted, at least in the continuity of Cells of War Code Black, as a big, massive sprawling city. Basically, it is the New York of the body, and that's not by accident. Since the liver is the biggest organ in the entire body, naturally they decided to depict it equally as such in the actual body itself. It's depicted as a giant city. And the red blood cells remark that they've never been to the liver, and the old man says that he's going to show them how to have fun in the liver and also how to have fun while detoxing. And then he takes them to a bar for all intents and purposes, and 2146 is a little confused as to what he means by detox. And then he walks in and sees the hepatocytes. So, yeah, basically what happens is the hepatocytes are depicted as these exotic dancer girl type figures. They dress really nice. They're designed to be these really cute, really highly sexualized characters and they're literally just designed to be barmaids, basically. That's what they're designed to do. Basically, and they start seating all the but in any case, once they get inside, they start seating all of the red blood cells in groups of 3 alongside some hepatocytes. And the main hepatocyte is the one that I'll picture her here. She doesn't have an anime art up on the wiki yet, but she does have manga art, so I'll use that. The main hepatocyte is the one that's responsible for not only treating for 2146 for his detox, but she's also the one to explain how the whole detox process actually works. And sure enough, each of the hepatocytes gives each of the red blood cells a drink. The drink is made of ADH, which is basically what it does is it breaks down alcohol into something that the liver can actually process, so that the liver can actually, use that to further break it down and dissipate it throughout the body. And sure enough, everybody all takes a drink, with the old man specifically asking to be spoon-fed his ADH, which is kind of the whole running joke of this. It's a bar. it's that kind of place. It's that kind of joint. But in case they all start drinking, taking their drinks, and as everybody starts drinking, sure enough, 2146 begins noticing that everybody seems to be getting a lot more aggressive and they begin smoking, basically. And the anime explains that this is the breakdown process that turns it into smoke. That it turns it into something that's very similar to what's found in the exhaust of your car. So yeah, that might dissuade you from drinking alcohol a little bit. I don't know the specific name for what it's actually called, but long story short, how it's described as a substance that's very similar to what's found in the exhaust of your car. So basically, when you're drinking, that's what's happening to your liver. When it breaks it down, that's what's happening to your liver. Your liver is basically just filling with exhaust from your car. And yeah, that should be a good sign to you to never drink. just that should be a sign to you to never drink. But in any case, in addition to giving off smog, everybody, which is how it's depicted fittingly enough, everybody begins venting about how hard they work and how they should be treated better. When 2146 asks Hepatosite what's wrong with everybody else, she mainly just explains that this is just a side effect of drinking ALH, not ADH, but it literally just breaks it down and causes more toxins to appear, which then they can break down even further by giving them another substance called ALDH, which is designed to alleviate most of that. It's designed to get rid of it. It's designed to get rid of that smog, that fumes. Sure enough, everybody begins drinking it, and the main Hepatosite gets up and gives everybody cheers, saying that she's hoping that they'll be able to continue to work going forward, and hopes that and wishes them to be healthy on another cycle. And this is when 2146 begins to become a bit of a mess. So here's the thing: it's not very subtle at all, and it's described as basically being a bar. It's basically being as a girl bar. It's designed to be. I don't know the exact terminology, but the thing is that it's depicted as a bar. And naturally, there are some people who get very, very sloppy after being drunk. And 2146 is one of them. And now it's his turn to vent. It's his turn to let out all of the things that he's been feeling and all of the things he's been pointing out that he's overworked and he doesn't want to do it anymore, and everything is terrible, which is understandable considering what he's seen up to this point. And when Hepatosite tries to calm him down and pointing out that everybody has it hard, he basically just snaps at her. He points out that the liver is basically the upper crust of the body, and that they don't have to worry nearly as much about everybody else, since they don't have to toil in all of it, and they haven't seen the things he's seen, and basically a whole bunch of other things along that line. And eventually the old man gets up and splashes his drink in his face to get him to knock it off, pointing out that as I said, he is a very sloppy ass drunk. At which point, Hepatosite leaves to go get him another drink. At which point, the old man takes 2143 by the shoulder and escorts him to the back room, where he finds out that it's not so cheery in the liver as he initially thought it was. As it turns out, the hepatocytes, they're responsible for detoxifying, which means they live a relatively easier life than other cells in the body, but relatively easier is not the same as living an easy life. As it turns out, when the red blood cells come down to detox, they're actually breathing in the fumes from when the detox happens. So, because of the problems is that this person, as I said, does not take care of themselves. This body does not take care of itself at all. They have people coming and going detoxing frequently, and that's not good. That's not good for the body at all. So yeah, and it's depicted as the hepatocytes having genuine health risks. They're having problems with they're having problems with keeping all the toxins in check, because the toxins do slowly build up over time, and you can't effectively get rid of them, especially if you drink a whole lot. So, and the liver can only do so much. It becomes diseased. It starts to break down if you overdo it on the drinking. So, and that's effectively what's happening here. That's effectively what's happening here. The hepatocytes are overwhelmed because of how much the body is drinking, but they stay strong and pull through. At which point, 2146 realizes he was harsh on hepatocyte and realizes, and the old man tells him that if he needs to talk, he's there for him. At which point, he just lets everything out. That he feels like he's a bit of a coward. He can't even do his job right. He feels like no matter how hard he's trying, he can never truly get to do what he was asked to do, and he feels like he's not doing enough. And the old man merely responds that he's been there himself. He knows what kind of pressure the guy's under, and he simply responds that he knows things are hard now, but hopefully things will look up and things will get easier. And with that, 2146 feels a little bit better, and they go back to their seat to sit down. At which point, hepatocyte comes back with a drink with the other drink for 2146, and 2146, before anything else, apologizes to her for being an asshole. He just apologizes for basically coming down on her for no real reason other than he's stressed and he figured she wasn't. She accepts his apology, pointing out that it's fine and that's a good thing that he came to the liver, because that's what the liver's for. It's to detox and let all of these negative emotions out. That is what the liver's for, and she deals with that on a daily basis, and it's fine. At which point he takes his drink, and the red blood cells go to leave, and they call to the old man, only to discover that the old man has passed away in his sleep. Yeah, that's how this anime ends. Not how this anime ends, but that's how this episode ends. The old man passes away in his sleep. Then the hepatocytes bring him to the Sinusoid, which basically is which, long story short, is where the red blood cells are brought to when they become older and begin to just kind of not be able to perform their functions anymore, and they effectively die. This is where they're brought. They're brought there, and they're broken down into new nutrients. At which point, hepatocyte thanks 2143 for coming with a kiss on the cheek and says that he's welcome to detox there anytime. At which point 1196 bursts out of the floor, and since the liver is kind of diseased, it's a fatty liver, so she came to investigate it, making sure that it doesn't fall apart without her. And in keeping in point with the fact that he may or may not have a crush on 1196, 2146, realizing that he kind of pulled hepatocyte into an embrace when he and her got startled, quickly separates himself and points out that it's not what it looks like, but she's too busy investigating the liver to care, so he's fine. At which point they decide to pick up their jobs again. The red blood cells begin to pick up a bit of an extra work since the old man died, and they now have to carry his load. And then the body starts drinking, and then the cycle repeats anew. So, yeah, this episode overall is just about how the liver breaks down alcohol, and how not everybody does it in moderation. It's not okay for them. It's not okay for them to overdrink, because then the liver up and dies on you. That's the main takeaway from this episode. If you drink too much, the liver can up and die on you, and you won't have a way to filter out toxins from your body anymore. It is just going to be a mess, and you literally just need to be careful. That's why you need to drink in moderation, because if you overdrink, then your liver will quit on you, and that is bad. That's really bad. Don't overdrink. That's basically the takeaway from this episode. Don't drink too much. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Cells at Work Code Black. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below as well. And be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to help support the show. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I was saying thanks, so be sure to check that out. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and also next time I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!